I think we're gonna wait for a few more moments before we start. Hi everyone. I think let's kick this off. My name is Emma Rimaike, and I'm here with my colleague Fernando Mejia. Thanks so much for joining our webinar. We're going to discuss about reinforcement of security capabilities for ransomware cases, help your teams become more agile, more smarter, how to fight ransomware issue. So how we're going to structure this webinar is we're going to have a very short introduction who quantum cybersecurity skills is. Then we're going to talk why you should care about ransomware. I'm sure you do because you are part of this webinar. And with help of Fernando, we're going to dive into technical cases, explaining in more depth how, what, and why. Right, so who we are. Quantum cybersecurity skills has been founded by a group of very passionate and experienced individuals with CISO backgrounds, SOC managers, risk analysts, pen tester, leading digital transformation backgrounds, you name it. And so we have the whole visual overview how cybersecurity works at all business verticals, starting with operational layer, tactical layer, and the strategical layer. So through our experience, what we have learned is that even though security services do exist in most organizations, the challenges that very often those security services are not really very closely interweaved with ever-changing business needs. And that's an issue. So we have work to do on both sides. Technical teams as security services providers, and more often business teams as security services clients. So we do offer international services, and because our team is very multicultural, this diversity and availability at various global locations is really giving us an advantage to follow the sun and address data privacy needs of global clientele, but also because of the availability, spread availability, we are able to offer high quality of services at good cost to the customer. Industries. So we've been analyzing our customer base, and we can't really see, one type of organization who approaches us for help. What we are observing is that any size organization from any geolocation, any industry really need our service. I think the question is more about maturity. So the first profile of the customer, what we observe is they are just starting to take cybersecurity journey more seriously, and they really need us to hold their hands. The second profile of our customers is usually they have in-house teams, maybe not sufficient, not big enough security team. So again, they are asking for our help to act as an extended team of theirs and provide the know-how for specific cybersecurity questions. And the third profile of customers, what we observe, they are very mature. They either run all the services in the cloud already, or they are transitioning from the hybrid into the cloud, from the hybrid environment, I mean, into the cloud. So they have fully operating internal security operations center. They have processes which are established. But what this customer is really looking is to even accelerate their maturity and security, be even more smarter and agile. So again, they are looking for our know-how, knowledge in certain areas like cloud, like security operations, and so on. One thing before I finish this slide is one of our differentiators is that we do offer services to our so-called competitors, other SOCs and other certs, usually under MSSP name. So even though our services could be overlapping, what we believe the real competitors, the real threat, are the threat actors who are stealing our data. And we believe we should be united all for one big purpose of achieving security excellence, irrespective of whether we are direct competition or not. So our spirit is, we believe it's time, it's really time to reflect on your previous security and IT investments over years or even decades. Most probably you had it all. You have technology, you have people and the skills, you have processes. It's all about little details, fine-tuning the quality of data to achieve more accurate, actionable information, fine-tuning your compliance. It's not like, hey, let's get rushed to prepare ourselves because the auditors are coming next month. But compliance requirements should be part of a daily routine, and many other aspects. It's all about, as I say, fine-tuning. There are two main purposes of this. First, to enable you as a business to identify the risk symptoms very early in the cyber kill chain, before those symptoms become a real issue to your business. And secondly, we want to help your security team to become an internal, trusted risk advisor at the board level. So before we start, what do we have? We have very well known and mature security providers. However, they have been hacked. And the reason of this is quite often old vulnerabilities. They left the back door through old vulnerabilities. On the other hand, what we have is industries. Again, irrespective of business size, irrespective of geolocation, different industries are being targeted. So at third point, what we have is government agencies who've been again targeted by other state-sponsored groups or independent threat actor groups. So we have a problem here. Vulnerabilities, industry, and threats. Are we gonna be the next target? I think what we need to discuss here is the likelihood, right? So let's start with a story. Here is Ina Simone, it's a real story. She's a grandmother, lives off pension, and her mobile device was subjected to ransomware. So what she did, she paid $500. So we have on the other end, completely different scale of business, Colonial Pipeline. You do remember the story about it, right? The supply chain was triggered, there was no gas, and so on. So where do we stand as a business? So as you can see, the research data is suggesting you don't need to be high profile business. Any business can be targeted. And we're gonna talk in next slide why the ransomware is really on the rise. So what is the financial impact of the ransomware attack? Again, it's not a thumb of rule, but it's just for you to think, right? So this is an extract of our weekly early security alerts, which we share for free. And very interesting. So we have published 30 vulnerabilities commonly exploited in 2020 and during 2021. Interestingly, 10 vulnerabilities were from 2019. 9 vulnerabilities are from 2021, and 10 vulnerabilities are from 2021. So again, we are almost at the end of the year 2021, right? You can see that average exploit price is in the dark market is very symbolic. So this is encouraging the threat actors to scale such operations. And I do see, because I have a background from DevSecOps, I see very similar challenge here. So DevOps have shifted to DevSecOps. There is a very famous expression, start left or shift left. And I think we need to do same in security operations. We need to add the speed, find the capability to address those old vulnerabilities, okay? So if you sum up, the average ransom payments and average exploit price, of course, the threats actors groups are very targeted because it offers fantastic return of investment. At least, again, this is just an estimate, okay, based on the research data. But at the same time, we have organizations who are losing. Again, this is not a thumb rule. It doesn't mean if you will be hit by ransomware attack, you will pay only $400,000. We see in the news, $50 million were paid by the business, or less or more. So again, it's just an estimation, but the point is organizations will lose in this battle. Okay, and Gartner, what Gartner is suggesting, and followed by Accenture and other trusted organizations. So the best medicine against ransomware is usually security excellence. So I will hand over very soon to Fernando, and Fernando is gonna talk about how to, about the technical cases. 2, 3.
Okay, so regarding with the most TTPs that different research groups have identified, according to different studies and research, there were identified certain TTPs. Okay, considering first the cyber kill chain. Okay, we have to keep in mind that in the pre-attack stage we have recon and weaponize. In the attack stage we have deliver, exploit, and control, and finally in the post-attack we have execute and maintain, which is persistence. Okay, the top 10 techniques that have been used by to be exploit or to take advantage of a system, all of them were utilities, native utilities of the operative system. We are not talking about applications that were vulnerable or services, network services that were brute forced. We are talking about native utilities that live in the operative systems. Okay, so this is important because we will take that part ahead. Okay, so according to different other studies, research more particularly regarding with the to the New Zealand CERT, those guys identify that the ransomware groups consider different entries of the attack. First of all, phishing, a power guessing, which is a brute force attack. vulnerability, legit email. Okay, this part in the pre-attack stage. So some of those entries trigger different other access, other elements into the infrastructure to take advantage of the system. For example, we could see that phishing and power guessing give the opportunity to get account access, vulnerability, and that account access trigger a compromised system, and legit email deliver an infected file that triggers a malware, and finally taking the control to start a life cycle of lateral movement. That means find an account or a system and start moving around the whole domain to find to make the to get different accounts of the transversally. Okay, as soon that part in the attack stage. So as soon as the lateral movement was performed or was finished, the data theft start the work. Okay, copy pasting. I mean, delivering all the valuable information in other external repository, and in some cases the backup was destroyed, and finally the data encryptation took place. Okay, and in that part, in the post-attack stage, a ransom note were delivered. But we think as a consultants that ransomware is not the problem. Okay, could be tricky because the title of this webinar is ransomware, but this is not the problem. The problem is that we have to consider the worst case scenario, which is the ransomware. If we cover that part, we could cover other threats. What does that mean? That we have identified through the way that we are identified to face a ransomware attack, we have detect other threats or other weaknesses into different organizations. It doesn't matter the size. It doesn't matter if those are global or domestic, are the same issues. So, as I said, ransomware is not the big problem. It's the worst case scenario. If we cover the worst case scenario, we could cover other additional issues. Okay, so sometimes we are not prepared to invest in security. We think that investing in the best InfoSec vendors is the best that we can do, but it's not like that. Okay, we have to be smart what security initiatives we have to position. Sometimes we are not just ready to face a ransomware attack, but also we are not ready to face another kind of threat like other malware. So probably our site is not in ransomware. Our site is in other threat, less risky, if you let me use the expression. Other things that we have identified is that the plans are not ready and are not useful. We think that probably if we certificate that procedures, we could be ready to face this kind of threats, but the thing is not like that. Other thing is that, as I mentioned before, we have other threats other risk in the business, in the business. So we have to be sure that we are facing correctly we are covering the other threats. Of course, sometimes, in some cases, a budget is not enough, but probably we could take advantage of the things that we already have. As I said, it's not to find or to buy a big leaguer of the InfoSec vendors. Is the way that we are taking advantage of the things that we have right now. Okay, because probably because the market, the magic quadrants tell us that InfoSec vendor is not so cool, but probably it's not like that. We have to take advantage because it's the thing. Those are the technology that we have deployed right now. So it's the only thing that we have. So we have to exploit it. We have to take advantage of that technology platform. So most of the cases, as I have mentioned and highlighted, we are not prepared. In that moment, we are not prepared, not just to face a ransomware attack, but also other kind of threat. Unauthorized access, denial of service, compromised service. We are not ready. As I said, ransomware is the final enemy, but we have to identify other threats that we probably already have in our infrastructure. Okay, so we have to remove from our way that we think that cybersecurity is not a luxury element. It's a needed, it's a must, it's a thing that we have to have. We should have a yes or yes. Since threats, vulnerabilities, risk are totally visible, are there and are exposed, at the end, we have identified as operative or tactical people that we are not ready, we are not capable to convey the right message. We are providing technical information, we are providing operative information to position potentially very relevant security initiatives. On the other hand, we have very operative, very tactical security initiatives that are not aligned to the business. And this is the thing. Because of course we have expensive information, we have expensive technology, but probably we are not capable to extracting valuable data of those platforms. In the tactical layer, we have, as I mentioned before, processes and procedures that probably are certified, but are not useful, are dusty manuals in the desk, and that's all. Are not tested, are not useful. So those manuals don't work at all. In the strategical part, we have people, skillful people that probably are doing other things that they are not doing, like cybersecurity people. We have to be sure that those guys are performing the task and the responsibilities that this is why we hire them, you know. So because we are totally sure that those guys help us to improve our security posture, to take advantage of the technology, to improve the procedures and the processes, to test the things that we already have. So at the end, we have to be sure that every single detection rule in the operative system, in the operative layer, every element of the tactical layer, procedure or process, and every strategical people are aligned to the business. Any initiative should be aligned to the business. And we have to measure those elements. If those elements are effective, probably we could have one advantage. But we have to be sure that are aligned to the business. And we have to test those elements. It doesn't matter that, as I said, detection rule, a Mitre grid to align it to all the SIM, IDR, incident response procedure, security staff. It doesn't matter. We have to test all those elements, and we have to do it regularly basis. We have to be sure that those elements are keep up to the date. And first of all, we don't have to recreate something, okay? Because we already have all those elements in the part of the technology. We have servers, endpoints, security platforms, cloud platforms. So in the tactical layer, we have, as I said, processes and procedures, and probably the most common procedures and processes are security monitoring, incident response, threat hunting, vulnerability assessment, other more, okay? But at the end, we have to be sure that those elements in the tactical layer are in place, are ready to be used. And finally, in the strategical layer, we have people, the people that that transform the data that we are receiving, that put in place the security posture of the organization, from level 1 to the CEO. All the people need to be aligned to the business. All the tasks, all the responsibilities need to be aligned to the goal of the business. And this is why we don't have to reinvent the wheel, because we already have those elements. The thing here is how we reorganize, or how we organize all those elements in the way that they could be aligned to the business, providing a correct event extraction, converting data, positioning security posture, and convert information, actionable information, and finally, give the opportunity to make decision in the strategical layer, providing value to the business. If there are elements that probably sound cool or probably sound fancy, but are not aligned to the business, probably we are wasting our time, we are wasting our money, and probably we are not, sailing in other direction. This is why we have to be sure that all the technology that we have give us we are extracting the data correctly. We are using the processes to provide a accurate security posture, and always align it to certain compliance alignment. And finally, in the strategical layer, all the people are transforming or generating all data in actionable information, providing decisions that are transformed into business alignment, the things that we have to do right now, okay? This is why in the operative system, in the operational layer, have assets. In the tactical layer, we have actions. We have to perform or to do certain things. And finally, in the strategical layer, we have to put the reasons, decisions, to be aligned to the business, to know what are the goal of the business. And sometimes this message, we don't know it in the operational layer. And this is very common mistake. Okay, one of the most common cases in real time, putting the same scenario that we provide previously in different entries of the attack. We have county using CodeStrike, and we have Red Devil group, with the most famous ransomware groups. We identify that in the first step, those deliver certain infected file, providing and performing different malicious actions in order to take control of the infrastructure, delivering different ways to perform lateral movement. So far, we have seen that in the case of Conti, took 4 hours. In the case of Red Devil, took 2.5 hours. In this stage, finished the attack stage. Okay, we have seen that those guys are doing almost the same. The modus operandi is very similar. So as soon as the lateral movement was finished, in that part, we see that when the exfiltration took place, Conti took 24 hours. In the case of Red Devil, which is very aggressive, took 3.5 hours. So those guys, starting in this phase, in this stage, testing the communication to be sure that they are ready to deliver the ransomware. The communications are not blocked, the communications are not detected. All the things are in place just to one click to deliver the encryption. So the encryption were most of the cases spread through SMB port, and then all the data or all the compromise elements were encrypted, delivering the ransom note. As I said, the problem is not ransomware so far. In this part, in the case of the Conti, took 32 hours. In the case of Red Devil, took only 4 hours. During this talk, we are hiring people, we are performing security initiatives, we are installing, we are updating, we are creating new detection rules. Probably we are be hunted. This is why we have to be effective, because or most of the cases, of course, budget is a valuable resource, but time is so relevant in all the cases. Probably you already know. Again, taking the same scenario, we saw in this part that we could perform different tasks without a security provider, for example. Okay, in this part, we could we need the sysadmin to execute, to perform certain tasks, to make harder to these groups, and probably to frustrate the activities with a couple of simple tasks. Okay, so in the tasks regarding with the orange part, the things start getting a little bit confused, a little bit harder, but we could do it as well. Okay, in the part in red, we could identify that probably we weren't not totally success, but we could have different elements to make detection in the lateral movement with certain Windows event IDs in endpoints or domain controllers. We could be capable to identify certain behavior, telecommunication behavior, network behavior with certain Windows event IDs. Okay, so far, probably our infrastructure is compromised, but it's not encrypted. And if we put it in perspective, as I have highlighted, ransomware is not the problem. It's the worst case scenario. If we are performing and deploying different security initiatives like this, probably we could survive today, and we have to be ready for the next day. In that part, as I mentioned before, probably our infrastructure is compromised already, but we was capable to stop the attack. As I said, probably if we consider, if we think about certain security initiatives, we could be effective with other kind of threats, with other kind of malware. Probably not too much aggressive, not as much aggressive as we could see with ransomware, but we could stop other kind of threats. Because because right now ransomware is a threat, and we could stop ransomware in certain point of the time, and another threat will come. So this is why ransomware is not the problem. It's the worst case scenario right now. If we cover that, if we consider the worst case scenario, we could consider other less harm scenarios, less dangerous scenarios. The thing is that probably we think that buy or to hire people by other infosec vendors could be expensive, but the thing is that the certain security initiatives could be a mistake. That means that we are sabotage ourselves doing things that are not aligned to the business. Okay, I'm not talking about a mistake by a mistake per se, a configuration, an installation, or something like that. I'm talking about all those security initiatives that are not aligned to the business. This is very dangerous because, as I said, we are sailing in other direction, and we are not considered the business goals of the organization. So this is the critical part, because we are investing a lot of money in things that don't make sense to the business. This is why we have identified in this time 7 sins to business alignment, and the first and the most common is that there is no visibility of the business goal. The operational layer, the people that work there, they don't care. They don't know what are the business goals. And this is very critical and is very common. We have to translate them and we have to combine them. What are the business goals of our organization? Because yes, it's cool to install things, it's cool to configure it and to create correlation rules, deploy a SIEM, but probably all those tasks are not aligned to the business. And we have to be sure that all that operative responsibilities are aligned to the business. And of course, if it's not aligned to the business, probably we won't have the sponsorship of the C-level, because don't make sense. That initiatives don't make sense to the C-level. Okay, sounds cool. It's very fancy, but honestly, I don't care because it's not aligned to the business. So we need the sponsorship of the C-level. And alignment and compliance is not an obstacle. give us the opportunity to order the things that we have to do, to prioritize our task. And of course, if we are prioritize those tasks and responsibilities, we need a plan. We need to execute in the best way, because we have to take care of the budget and the people, all the resources that we have. As I said, time is very effective. It could be better if we are planning the things that we have to do. If we identify red flags, mistakes, if we identify lack of configuration as soon as we test, it's very good. If we identify if the risk indicator is in the red part, it's very good because those indicators give us the opportunity to keep improving. So the precursor of the yes is the no. So as soon as we are improving and improving and improving, we are getting better and better. And the security provider or the security or the auditor, the guy that is guide us to be better, is not the enemy. Is not the inquisitor. Is not, because that person is help us to improve, is point out the things that we are the things that we have to improve, you know. So as I mentioned before, compliance should work for us. Okay, we have ISO 27, we have PCI, and we have a HIPAA or other compliance alignment, but that is not a shield, first of all. Secondly, that compliance alignment gives us the opportunity to cover at least the point number 4, which is the plan. Okay, because we have right now, we have a direction, we have a compass that give us the opportunity to tell us what is the north. Okay, but as I said, compliance is not a security control, it's not a shield. Is the ransomware groups want to ask, do you have are you certified on ISO 27? No, it's not like that. It's not how it works. In that part, to sum up a little bit, we have the business process. Okay, we have to know from the operative system, from the operative layer to the strategical layer, we have to know yes, what are the business goals of the organization, and we have to know what are the threats that we have in the region, in our industry, in our sector. We have to know, we have to identify what are our most common threats in the technology that we use. Okay, we have to know what is the maturity of our detection. If our detection is put it in place, but we have to calibrate additional things. It's not just to install a EDR and that's all. We have to keep tested. We have to know what are the critical assets. We have to know what are the visibility. We have to know what we have to defend. What are those elements that are behind the wall, you know? So this is why we need to know what are the criticality of those elements. And we have to know what is the attack surface. What are the weaknesses that we have? What are the things that we have to improve, that we have to strengthen? And we have to be sure that all the processes, all the manuals, all the procedures are put it in place to be ready and to be useful. In the part of protection, we have those elements that are behind the wall, but as we mentioned before, most of them have native utilities that could be used. So we have to be sure that those elements are very fine-tuned, we are performing hardening on those elements to protect it. And this is additional layer of defense. And finally, we have to be aware that our incident response team, probably a provider, probably one person or two people, are ready to face different threats, not just malware, any kind of threat. Okay, so sometimes we are take it for granted that if we have an incident response plan, we are covered, but it's not like that. We have to be sure that it's tested, is useful, is enough mature to be used in moments of crisis. And finally, the part that a continuity, the business continuity, okay? In that way, we could close the circle and know what is the things and where the state of the things, what are the maturity of the elements that we have in our visibility in terms of security. Of course, we have capabilities, we have different elements, but we have to be sure that those elements are effective, are ready to be used, and it will work in the moments of crisis. Of course, to know where is our level of maturity, we have different compliance alignments, are different references, but we need a north. We need a compass to give us the opportunity to know, hey, I need to improve what I need to improve, how I need to improve. So this is why we developed our own methodology, which is quantum security assessment. In that assessment, we consider different elements. We consider the regulatory requirements, a couple of them. We consider strategical requirements, consider the ISO 27, the technical or the operative requirements, which is 20 security controls. And with our methodology, we are not just considering the technology part, that all the rest of them are considered. We are assessed processes and people, because of course those elements, those three elements, technology, process, and people, are resources that we need, that we should mature as well. And those elements should be aligned to the business as well. A couple of months ago, we remember that a couple of Conti manuals were released by an internal element of those guys, and led us the opportunity to see how those guys are working, identify different TTPs. Of course, was very interesting, but we have other threats, common vulnerabilities, common phishing, legit emails, and brute force. According to the first reference that we mentioned before, the entries of the attack, we have different entries of attack. Okay, so we have seen that those guys are very creative, are persistent, are very smart, and they don't care what could be the impact for us. So this is why we have to be careful, and we have to be smart in the moment to position those security initiatives that I have mentioned all the time. This is because we think most of the cases that the technology has vulnerabilities, but the thing is that processes and people have vulnerabilities as well. So at the end, we have an attack surface considering the previous entry of attacks. We have an attack surface that we have to be sure that are tested, that are protected, that are enough mature to face different attacks different trends of different attack vectors. So this is the relevance to test and to reinforce those elements: people, processes, and technology, of course. In different, we have different proactive security support. We have help other SOCs, other CSIRTs to create different manuals, different playbooks. We have tests. We are delivering security tests and attack simulation. In the reactive security support, we have improved security initiatives. We provide security monitoring, MDR services. We help other guys to improve the incident response part in the way that we do, and we help to reinforce the different elements, like or the different technology that we help, like Active Directory, DNS, firewall, IPS, SIEM, and ADR, to calibrate them, to improve them, to make it harden. Okay, in the part of continuous improvement, we have other kind of services like training, incident response, red team, SOC training, not as a common training, is very calibrated, very focused training regarding to the weak points that we previously identified. So we are trying to be fine in the moment to provide this kind of training to these guys. So other very successful service that we have provided is the optimization assessment with other SOCs, as Emma mentioned before, with other teams, with other potential competitors. But again, the only competitor, the only one that we have to overcome are right now ransomware groups, but there are other groups that are dedicated with other things. The worst case scenario is ransomware, but ransomware is not the problem. We have other threats, other risks, and if we focus to the worst case scenario, we are covering and we are overcoming other threats. Okay, so thank you so much for having us to join us, and we really believe that we have to test something, to understand it, to improve, and it's a no-ending life cycle. This is why this is or the way that we think. During October, we trigger a campaign as a proof of value campaign with the different or certain service that we provided to know with other counterparts, other partners, or other interest people to know these services. One of them is security test and attack simulation, incident response assessment, ransomware readiness, SOC optimization, and or methodology, quantum security assessment. The duration of this proof of value are 2 weeks. So during 2 weeks, we are working in certain things to know the service and potentially to be convinced that they need it. You need this to improve your capabilities. So thank you so much for joining us. Emma?
Yes, I will gonna talk about the last slide. In the meantime, please think of any questions you might have to us. So yes, we have kicked off our second global SOC survey. Please take a note of this QR code or link, and your voice. We need it. We want your voice. It's very important. We had great success last year with the global SOC survey, and we have shared the findings with you. So we want to do this again. Please also feel free to subscribe to our weekly early security alerts. They are this is a free service because again, our CERT team is dedicated to helping you increase security efficacy. So are there any questions? Let's give a moment. I don't think there are. Well, anyway, thank you so much for your participation. We hope you enjoyed it. And we look forward to seeing you in our following webinars. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. I think we're gonna wait for a few more moments before we start.